Obama will unveil a new and fresh plan to create jobs in September. Jobless rates surging since 2007. Back then it was only 5%. Those were back in the good old days. Jerry Moran's a Republican senator out of Kansas. Sir, good morning to you, Senator. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, Bill. Good to be with you.
You are urging the White House to call Congress back to work now. What would that accomplish?
Well, what I've asked the president to do is to provide some leadership and to come up with a plan to work with Republican and Democrat leaders of the House and Senate. There is no reason to wait till September. When we left Washington, D.C. After the debt ceiling vote, our business was unfinished, and we saw that with the downgrade by Standard & Poor's. And now that I've been back in Kansas and had a good dose of common sense and good judgment from Kansans, they're frustrated with the president's lack of leadership. They're frustrated with the inability of Congress to work together. And what they know is the economy needs work, and it can't wait, and people need jobs, and waiting for the president to say something in September. This is the third year of this president's four-year term, and he's ready to make a major speech about jobs and unemployment and the economy. We know there's some common sense things that we could agree upon. The president ought to work with Congress, ought to take into account the suggestions we have, and let us get back to work, not in September,
I understand
but
your
back
point.
to work now.
Right. What the White House says is that's the reason why you went on break, so you could hold 87 town hall meetings and listen to your constituents so you get a better idea of what they're telling you. That's the reason for the break.
Well, the president doesn't need a bus tour to know what Americans are thinking. And while town hall meetings are an important part of how I conduct my job, we've had a problem in our state and across the country with jobs for a long time. This isn't a new development. And the idea that we now have to regroup back in Washington, D.C. to come up with a new plan, where's the president been? And I would bring Congress into this as well. This is not a problem that's new to us. What worries me is that the president is now talking about politics of getting reelected and job creation's role in that regard as compared to addressing the real problems of our country, dealing with a regulatory environment, a tax code, lack of exports and trade around the world, an energy policy that discourages the production of our own sources of energy. There are just things that we ought to be able to agree upon that doesn't take some rollout of a president's new political speech and get us back to work today so that we can get Americans back to work.
You're going to get a crack at that real soon. 14 million unemployed. That doesn't count the millions more who have frankly dropped out of the workforce because they gave up looking. But here is what we believe the president will offer: tax cuts, job-creating infrastructure ideas, help the long-term unemployed. They all say it's new and fresh ideas. What do you make of that, based on what you hear so far?
Well, what I want to know is, does the president understand, does congressional leaders understand that the federal government doesn't create jobs, certainly in the long term, and that it takes the creation of wealth, it creates the promotion of a free market system. We ought to create an environment in which the business community can make decisions. Now is the time to invest in plant and equipment. Now is the time to add to the payroll. And if the president's proposals will just be, once again, the belief, reflecting his belief that you simply spend more money to create more jobs, it won't work. It's how we got into the downgrade that we're in, growing from our federal spending being about 18% of our economy to about 25% in the last 2 years. The downgrade occurs because we're spending too much money and not focused on the creation of jobs in the private sector.
The White House early word says it's all new and fresh ideas. It's going to take 3 weeks or so to hear about it. But, sir, thank you for your time. Jerry Moran's a Republican senator out of Kansas. Thank you.
Bill, thank you.
All right. Martha?
Well, it was a dramatic end to a very dramatic standoff. How rescue crews finally